Welcome to Deal Nation. On the show today, we're joined by Tim Ebie. He is the owner of Land Fast Offers and a longtime Launch Control subscriber. Tim, how are you, man?
Doing great. Nice to be here. Thanks for having me, Michael.
Yeah, happy to have you on the show. I know you've got an interesting story about how you got involved in REI. You're big in the land space, so definitely looking to get some of your insights on what's going on that side of real estate. So let's start off with origin stories. How did you tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of how you gravitated towards real estate investment in the first place?
Yeah, no, great question. And like I said, thanks for having me, Michael. So yeah, my story's pretty interesting. I think mine started with like a romance story, I should say, right? so so I was looking to get married in like 2015. Actually, I was engaged. So I don't know. I'm from Nigeria, right? And our culture, we have like huge weddings. My sister's wedding had 700 people. So
Whoa.
my wedding came, yeah, it's a huge wedding. My wedding came as the first son. I'm like, okay, this is gonna be a great big wedding here in Houston. I live out of Houston. Long story short, so I'm thinking of the budget for this wedding, right? That's budget's pretty big. And I have a corporate job. Corporate job, great, doing pretty well. Thank God for that. However, I didn't think the income at the time was going to necessarily help me get to that budget number I was trying to get to. So I started looking into other ways to make extra income, online businesses, et cetera, et cetera. Um, then I came across real estate. I had a couple of friends actually in Houston that do wholesaling. Um, this is after I read Rich Dad Poor Dad. I was like, well, let me reach out to these gentlemen, and they told me about wholesale. I'm like, okay, this is great. And from there, I just kind of started doing some more digging and actually got into wholesaling by watching, some free YouTube content. And from there, I was off to the races because I figured, hey, this was gonna be a great avenue to supplement my 9 to 5 job, so I can have money for my wedding. And thank God, hey, it worked out. So I was able to kind of get the wedding done and everything worked out. So that was my first introduction to REI, right? Rich Dad Poor Dad, talking to some friends, taking some YouTube training, free training, just kind of going through what they were talking about in the course, and just started getting my first deal and went from there, and we're off to the races.
So was that like part of your pitch to the homeowners? You were like, "Look, man, I'm trying to pay for
Yeah.
my wedding. I'm going to need you to sell to me at a discount. It's not going to happen if you don't."
Hey, I'm trying to get married. Yeah, yeah. Actually, that's a good point. I should have brought that up. That'd be more realistic and more great way to kind of connect with them. But yeah, so it helped as far as Michael, as far as a big driver. To say like, hey, look, man, where I'm trying to go in life and the things I'm trying to do. I felt there was a cap on my income, and this was not going to cut it this 9 to 5. So real estate was a great avenue as far as that was concerned. Of course, obviously, when I was going through it, Rich Dad Poor Dad talks a lot about cash flow, all these assets, get these rental properties, and the cash flow, which is great, but in reality, that is not as practical as most people. I'm sure people that have real estate experience say, hey, it takes a while to build up that kind of portfolio that has cash flow, begins to spit income. So the idea is like, hey, do I go this passive income route that Rich Dad Poor Dad is advocating, or the reality is, which I'm going to realize as I'm going getting deeper in my real estate journeys, it's really an active income strategy, right?
Yeah.
Wholesaling or something like that, flipping, some kind of active income. The passive income will come much later after you've kind of built, good cash basis. So that was a lesson learned early.
No, I agree. So when you went into this, like, basically trying to fund the wedding, were you thinking of this as being a supplementary side hustle? Or were you looking at this as kind of like, once I become a married man, I want to have more time. I want to be able to, maybe I don't know if you have a family or not, but if
Right.
I want to start a family and I want time to spend with that family. Was that a consideration, or was it early on you wanted a side hustle to make that extra cash flow?
Yeah, initially, to be frank, right, that was initially what it was. It was just like, hey, side hustle to make more income. But I think deep down inside, I think innately, Michael, I always had this desire, yearning for financial freedom. I don't know what that was, how that looked, but it was just this yearning to be financially free, and also not only
Mhm.
to have financial freedom, but like you said, just freedom of time, even bigger than the financial freedom, just to do what I want. Spend time with family, friends, travel, and not just have somebody else kind of control my day. So that was kind of deeper. That was going on at the time, but of course I didn't know it because my immediate goal at the time was like, hey, I got this budget I got to get to, but once I kind of got there, okay, hell, it was just deeper. Like, hey, I got to get out this 9 to 5, which was great because I eventually left my 9 to 5 in December 2021, I believe. I was able to kind of leave my 9 to 5, and I was out from there. But it took me years. It wasn't like overnight because when I started the real estate journey, this was I think it was around Harvey in Houston. I want to say it was 2017. or 2015. I can't recall the exact time. I want to say maybe 2015, but that's kind of where I started thinking about that deeper, right? To kind of get started. And so it took me about maybe 5, 6 years before I finally realized that, in other words, to be able to leave that 9 to 5 job, which is a great corporate job. So for me to leave after going to school for a while, having over like 15, 16 years of experience, it wasn't just something I was just going to do like this, just jump off the boat. I had to really have to be a very calculated decision. And like you mentioned, I was married at the time. So when you're married with a wife, you're not just going to take a reckless decision. If I was single, yeah, I could just do whatever I want. So it was very calculated. It took a while to kind of actually get there. So I'm just saying it's a step by step process. At least that's what I learned.
Yeah, and it's important to note, right? Because I think when people talk about like retirement savings, for instance,
Right.
it's like take what your current salary is and times that by 15 or 20 or however many years you need
Mm,
to fund, and that's kind of what you need, right? And
right.
it's sort of the same principle of like you're you want to use this when you have enough consistency in this business that even if you're not getting paychecks every 2 weeks, which you're not going to,
Right.
right?
Right.
But
Right. Right.
if you over a quarterly basis, if that's tracking to consistently equaling or bettering what you were making in
Hmm.
your 9 to 5, then you can pull the parachute, right? But
Yes. Yes.
if you just go in and go, well, I listened to a lot of podcasts and watched a lot of YouTube videos, and a lot of people are making a lot of money at this. I'm just going to give it a go, and like because the crazy thing is, I know some people that are now out of real estate investing
Mm,
that made a couple $100,000 out of the gate. Just, first
mm.
6 months just crushed it and then tapered off and never really kind of refound the magic.
Right.
And
Right.
I also know people that are multi millionaires that were just on the struggle bus for at
Mm,
least 6 months to a year,
hmm.
wondering if it was going to work out, and they stuck with it, and now they're pillars, right? And
Right.
so you never really know.
Right. Right. No. Yeah. Most definitely. Yeah. I mean, like I said, that was a process for us. Me personally, what I did is, like I said initially, my goal was to say, I wanted to get to a certain income amount monthly to replace my monthly. The key here is the monthly income. I was like, man, this is taking forever. This is not going to work. Right. But thank God, eventually, which I'm sure we're going to talk about later, when I got into land, the strategy changed because it wasn't coming up with this monthly income. I was like, if I can just save a year of my salary, I'll be good. So now I don't have to
Yeah.
think about any kind of bills for 1 year, and I can just go from there. And that's kind of what that kind of game plan works. So different ways to skin the cat, so to speak.
Yeah, and we'll make that transition real quick, but yeah, that's a good point, and it's something that I think that is um, it- going into entrepreneurship, something you have to be willing to do, and hopefully you won't have to, but you
Hmm.
have to be kind of willing to. Is let's say you've got that year's worth of salary in the bank,
Hmm.
and you have to be willing to burn through a lot of that in
Yep.
order to get the income coming in, right? So
Right.
you have to be willing to take that loss in order to get the bigger gain. You
Right.
should, if it all works out, you should be able to put it back and put it back quickly. But
Hmm.
it might be 6 months
Right.
of floating on the float money. And
Right.
you gotta take a deep breath and just plunge.
Right. Right. Exactly.
So you said you mentioned you used the word wholesaling as
Right.
where you got started. So I assume you were wholesaling houses.
Right.
What like how did that start for you? What were kind of the challenges you saw, and then how that gets you to land?
Yeah, good question. So, like I said, I started wholesaling. Took a few courses, free. You can always find anything in wholesaling if you're resourceful enough, right? So we started that. Started doing some marketing. Got my first deal. One of my friends I mentioned I initially spoke to when I was trying to get in. I didn't know anything. Matter of fact, I got the deal from Craigslist. I didn't know that was possible. A guy called me. He was like, "Hey, he has a property. It was a nice townhouse on the north part of Houston, saying it's going to foreclosure. Oh no, sorry, he was going through bankruptcy." And I thought he was just kind of like another wholesaler trying to like JV or something. I'm like,
Yeah,
but he ended up being a real seller. So I went through the deal. I had no idea how to disposition it. So I called my friend. Long story short, we ended up splitting it. I think I made like 2,000 on it, and I got the check, pinned it on my wall. Yes, proof of concept.
yeah,
This works. Even after the JV deal. So I did that, and after that I did a few more deals. But what really kind of propelled my initial wholesaling career with houses specifically was doing my networking. And this is why I think networking is important. Going networking here in Houston, I met a gentleman, and he kind of became like a mentor. And the agreement we had was like, hey, he's gonna fund all the deals, and I just go out there and find them, and he'll fund them. And but not only
Hmm.
would he fund them, he also had the experience to teach me how to negotiate and underwrite deals. So basically, what
Okay.
I'll do is I'll get the seller. Let's say you're the seller. I'll get you on the phone. You want to sell. I'll kind of queue it up and he'll come in and close on the back end. But the key is I'll stay on the line and it'll be a three-way call and I will listen to how he talked to the sellers, how he negotiated, and how he
Ah,
signed the contract. So that was great because the idea was, and I know you've heard it, they say that 50%, of a watermelon is better than like 100% of a grape, right? Right. So as opposed to like being greedy, trying to take all the gains, well, I was like, you know what? I was like, well, if I partner with this guy for a year and split the profits. I think I took like 30%. He took 70% every deal, but I didn't care because I'm thinking I'm going to be, earning as I learn. That's all I was thinking about for a whole year because he gave me access to all his contractors, his knowledge base, his contracts and his paperwork and his experience within a year. So that really just skyrocketed my experience. And what happened was a lot of people that I started the business with at the time, I was way more advanced because I got into the game not doing basic wholesaling. We were doing subject to deals and wraparound mortgages, which is a lot more complex than basic wholesale cash transactions. So
yeah,
what we started doing is I started going after pre-foreclosures in Houston, right? And even up to today, I still have some of those rental property and wraparound mortgages, what, 6, 7, 8, 9 years later, that is still cash flowing because
yeah,
I was willing to take that step back, so to speak, or take less initially for a full year in order to kind of gain that knowledge immediately, and it paid off in the long run. So that's kind of what kind of got me to the houses for a couple of years, and after that, as you might know, in houses, it was pretty competitive. The biggest issue we had, which was consistent lead generation in houses. So we're having a hard time getting consistent leads. And after a while, that kind of tapered off, and I got into land, which I'm sure we can talk about. But that's kind of how I got
yeah.
started with the houses.
Well, I mean, I love that because I think that what was it you said, like half of a watermelon is better than 100% of a grape, or 50% of a watermelon is better than 100% of a grape.
Correct.
That's a lesson that a lot of investors learn the hard way. Right? They come
Mm,
in and they want this to be a cash flowing business, and they see an opportunity of like, well, if I take this down myself, I'm going to get X percentage of this, or I'm going to get X amount of money. And in the beginning, what they often don't factor in is the margin for error in
mm,
transaction coordination, the margin for error in final negotiations, the margin for error on the disposition side, if it's land, or in connecting with the right buyer and making sure that they fulfill their side of it. There's
right.
you're doing multiple jobs in
Right.
that case, and some of which you don't have subject matter expertise in. So
Right.
there's the error reduction side of going the way that you went, and
Hmm.
then there's the scalability side. Because
Yes.
right, because if you were to have, let's say you had a just a killer couple of weeks and you brought 5 deals to that person, right? And
Hmm.
they have the capital to close on those 5 deals. All you had to do was bring those 5 calls to them, stay on the line, close with them, and then turn back and find 5 more, right?
Yes. Yes.
So yeah, and so that ability to just stack up the deals and scale, that 50% of that watermelon adds up. If you're getting 50% of 15 watermelons, it's going to
Yeah.
be worth a hell of a lot more than 100% of 2 or 3 grapes.
Yeah. No, it's a great point, and you brought that up, Michael, because that's exactly what happened, right? Because on our end, I just focused on acquisitions. That's all I focused on while we were doing our stuff, acquisition only, and he focused on disposition. So we're able to kind of close a lot of those deals much faster and easier, right? Because I was just focusing on getting the deals, hand it over to him, listen to the calls, and just kind of go right back to the pre-foreclosure list and get more deals. Like I said, that was so great because even up to today, I still have some of those rentals, literally still cash flowing. That's helping me with depreciation. I still have some of the wraparound mortgages, right? So it's been, and this is
Yeah,
like 8, 7 years later. I still have a relationship with the gentleman, right? Because we still have a lot of deals together. But like you mentioned, that was key. The scalability part was huge, right? And so I had my part on acquisitions, lead generation, queuing it up, kind of qualifying the person properly, send it over to him. He handled disposition, negotiation, contracts, the funding, everything, and I just kind of learned along the way completely. So that was a great way to kind of get started into real estate for me. And that's what I recommend people when I talk to people. I don't have a coaching or anything like that, so I'm not trying to sell nothing. I'm like, look, find somebody you like. If you have to pay a mentor, which is what I did when we talk about land and other stuff, I do pay. I believe in that because I think that just kind of ramps up the speed. And like you mentioned, as far as the error rate is much less, and plus you always have a great support system, right? In scriptures, it talks about in Book of Proverbs, it says that the multitude of counselors, there's safety. In other words, what that means is sometimes if you have the right kind of counsel, the right kind of support system, it's hard to kind of go astray. If that, again, the key is the right one, not just anybody, right? Right? Is the right kind of support system. The right ones, professional, other entrepreneurs that have been down that road. Hey, you talk to two or three of them. There's no way you talk to two or three people that have the same kind, that have great knowledge base in a particular subject area. Between those two to three answers, 100% of the time, you're going to get what you need. Right? It's going to be red that's going to lead you astray. Because even if one is off, the two other three will kind of validate, hey, this is where you need to go with it. So anyway, that's kind of my mindset, and I believe in that system even up to today.
So it sounds like you really had a sweet spot. I mean, you had great mentorship, you had financing in place, you were getting deals done, you were getting complex deals done that pay off over a term of years. You're still collecting
Right,
money from some of those deals.
right,
So why leave that sweet spot to pursue land?
right. No, good, great question. Yeah, like I alluded to earlier. So the biggest thing was the lead generation with houses, and there's a lot of guys that do houses today and have great systems. So I commend them. But for us, the lead generation was kind of slower. And when I say slow, I wouldn't even say slow, Mike. I'll say the word is inconsistent.
Okay.
Right? So some days leads would come and some days leads were not there, and it was just kind of harder to have consistent lead generation. And of course, without good lead generation, you don't have as many appointments. Without many appointments, you don't have any offers to make. Offers make no deals and no cash. So it's really leads is really where a lot of times it starts with, right? So on one of the deals where we're texting one of our lists, I think it was an absentee list, a guy responded say he wants 25,000 for his property. I'm like, whoa! When I see 25,000 for anything, in this case, it's supposedly houses. It got my attention, so I stopped. I'm looking at my text platform thing. I'm like, oh my gosh! So I look into it. Come to find out, it was a burnt down house that happens to be vacant land. So I'm like, oh gosh, land. What is this land stuff? I don't know nothing about land. Long story short, I'm like, well, okay, well, 25,000. I know I can't go wrong, man. 25,000. I ran the comps the best I can. I'm like 25,000 for this land in this good area. I know it's probably worth more. And based on my math, I thought it was worth 40. So long story short, I ended up borrowing money from a friend. I actually that's what I knew. I like, hey, let me get 25,000. Let me close with this guy. So I closed with a friend, borrowed the money. I used OPM, other people's money, closed on it. I ended up selling the deal for like 70,000 on owner finance, and the down payment when I resold it was 30,000, was more than my initial acquisition price.
Wow.
So I was out of the game free and clear, collecting like $500 a month for like 8 years. So when I closed on it and I gave my friend his money back at closing, like, hey man, here's a 25K back. Matter of fact, I have nothing, no basis in this. I'm happy, I'm excited. I have 30K note for 8 years. None of my money's in this deal. He was like, yeah, that's what this guy Jack Bosch does for land. They buy property at 10 cents on the dollar for land. I'm like, nobody buys property for 10 cents on the dollar. That's impossible.
Yeah.
So he told me that. So I'm like, well, so I look into Jack Bosch, ping Jack. I literally ping Jack itself. And Jack responded. He was like, hey, yeah, land stuff and blah, blah, blah. So, I watched some of his stuff, his webinars, and from there, I just kind of started digging into land. And the biggest thing I like when I started working with them and looking into land more, again, Michael, like I mentioned, it solved my biggest problem, which was consistency of leads. So so I'm like, oh shoot, my issue is solved with these leads. So I went through his program, learned really how to do the land stuff properly, and from there, sky was the limit because that's what kind of helped me leave my 9 to 5, and that's why I'm here today.
was it was the what brought consistency? What was it about land that brought consistency? So did you were you using different marketing channels or different marketing tactics, or was it just kind of less white noise in the land space than there is in the wholesaling space?
Yeah, it's a good point. So with land, I just feel with land, and I don't know if this is 100% accurate. I just feel there's more opportunity deal. There's more parcels because there are over 3,000 counties in USA, and there are millions upon vacant parcels. So there's more vacant land that there are improvements. In other words, houses. And if you're talking about houses, you're talking about residential houses. A lot of people that do houses, they focus on just residential. They might not do mobile homes, et cetera, et cetera. So with land, vacant land, there's more vacant parcels. And the bigger part was what helped solve that problem was I was confined at this time when I was doing houses prior just to the Houston, Harris County area. But with land, we're nationwide. We're in Georgia, we're in Alabama, we're in the Northeast United States, we're in California, we're in North Carolina, we're in Florida. We're all over the United States, is my point. So there's endless opportunity for lands, of land, of course, as long as there's demand there. So that solved the issue as far as lead generation. And that kind of helped us really start to build a business. Because I think a great business, if you want to have a great business, I think one part of it, you have to have enough leads to kind of always fill up that pipeline or that funnel in order to kind of have the funnel work, right? So if you have leads, it kind of solves a lot of issues. Of course, you have to have be a great operator, know your numbers, et cetera, sales, negotiation. But that lead, without leads, nothing else happens. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, nothing else happens at all, right? In business, you're just sitting there, you're just looking cute. So that kind of solved that issue. That was the lead generation because there's more vacant parcels to kind of get us started.
So what's your like where did you start with lead generation, and then what's your current kind of marketing recipe for getting consistent calls in the door?
Yeah. So we got started with land. Um, with that, like I said, working with Mr. Bosch and his program. And initially, it was a lot of direct mail. So they sent out direct mail, going back and forth as far as lead generation. In my head, coming from houses, I struggled. And this is a good point for anybody starting anything. I was like, huh. When I was doing the houses, we should just blast people with texts and cold call them to death. But what they advocated in their course was, hey, forget everything you know, just trust the system and just send mail. I'm like, man, but houses, I should just blast people with text messages. And it was much faster to generate lead because with mail, Mike, as you know, mail is great, but it's slow. Let's be honest, right? It takes a while. Send it, they read it, they call back, and oh my gosh, it takes like a month for them to just call you, right? So mail takes a while. So we started with mail because here's one thing I like I said, I advise people. I believe whenever you go through mentorship or take a course in any program, I say stick to it and just follow it like a dummy.
Hmm.
There's a reason you took it because there's a reason their particular system or program works. The mistake a lot of people make, and I'm going to ask you a question, is they start jumping around. They take one course, they take 10%, they don't finish it and really execute what they're telling them, and they jump to another one and do this, and now they have 20% here, 10%, and they're confused. They get no results, and they blame the coaches and say none of this stuff works. No, 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 you don't work, right? Because you didn't follow what they told you. So with Jack Bosch, when I was taking it, and I'm going to get to that point, I struggled because I was like, well, you know what, Tim? These guys have success. If you were good at what you're doing in houses, you would not be here today. So humble yourself, forget everything you know, and just do what they're telling you, even if it doesn't make sense. This is key for people. People struggle with this, especially when you have experience coming in. You're like, no, I have a better way. No, if you had a better way, you would not be here today talking with these people, paying them this money. So I had to humble myself. I did exactly what they said, extremely verbatim. And guess what? I followed the recipe and the ingredients, and I got the results.
Yeah.
Six figures within like 6 months. It was crazy, right? So to answer your question, right? Direct mail, direct mail, direct mail. So when I finished the course and I graduated, this is the part where I propose, I agree with people, and after I got the experience and the system work end to end, now you can begin to innovate and add your own spin to it after you've had initial success, not before. So after I graduated from the program, I understood A to Z. I knew every the way it works. I wasn't tinkering with the recipe. Now, say, you know what, hey, well, let me try a different marketing channel. So we got into the texting platform because what happened, Michael, this was actually a great point. Again, the same issue came up. Leads became a problem. Literally, I remember this like yesterday, like 2 years ago, right? I'm like, oh, this direct mail is becoming slow because the response rate started at 2-3%. Michael, you send 1,000 mails, get 300 people call you, 30 people, 1%. Okay, oh great, you get deals. You keep sending mail around 50, 60 cents a mail, Michael. What happens now? Nobody's calling. It dropped like point half a percent, which is not good when you spend a lot of money on mail. So I'm like, okay, there
Hmm.
has to, no. So my team is like, hey, team, we have nobody to call. I'm like, oh, this is an issue. We have no leads. Again, like I mentioned, without leads, you really don't have a business. So what I like any other business owner, you got to solve the problem in your business first before you can solve a problem with a seller or a buyer. So I started looking at other ways to generate leads, and texting came up, and of course, at this point, I know your team is doing launch control. Launch control was just like the Michael Jordan of the game. Everybody talking about launch control, man. Everybody launch control. I'm like, what? Who are these guys? Right? Where did these guys come from? So right. So I looked into it, and I got into launch control, and I just have to. I just like to be frank and transparent. I didn't do anything by myself. I'm a product of people's help, so I'm not gonna act like I just figured this out. No, I didn't. I just even God's grace is what helps me every day. I worked at Callan Faulkner. I know you know her, right? So she had
Yep.
like at the time, I don't know if she still offers this no more. She probably doesn't, right? So I worked with Callan Faulkner, paid her again. You're noticing the theme here. Paid her a fee for consulting, for texting. Oh my gosh, Michael, it was night and day because again, I tried myself at first. I'm like, oh my gosh, this doesn't work. I couldn't figure out how to do it. The system works, the lateral system works, but there's always a better way to do things that can expedite your success faster.
Yeah.
So I talked to Colin Faulkner, went through her program. Again, it was like 3, 4 months. Immediately success. Started getting results. Because her stuff works. She knows her stuff. It was good. And plus, part of it was
Yeah.
just the scripts, the
Quick
setup, and all
shout
that stuff.
out
Sorry,
quick
go ahead.
shout out to Callan. Like of every affiliate that we've ever worked, that Launch Control's ever worked with, every coach that Launch Control's ever worked with, I think she's probably got the most advanced, effective system for using
Mm-hmm.
text
Mm-hmm.
or in the land space. Every time I talk to her, I'm like, oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
She's always innovating. So definitely a good
Yeah.
resource there. Um, so regarding kind of what we're really talking about here, I think, is active versus passive marketing.
Mm.
Because every kind of marketing that you do for this, because we are looking to buy at a discount, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's wholesaling houses or flipping land, we're looking to buy at a
Right.
discount, and you're going to get ignored a lot, right? Whether it's a text
Yes.
message or a direct mail piece, you're going to get ignored a lot, and 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 you when you send out direct mail because it is passive, right? You're probably going to have a
Mm.
call center that's going to answer that. They're going to ask them some vetting questions. You're going to go in at a pretty like you know well educated space with that seller, but the mail, if you're sending it on a non-priority mail, it's going to take what, 7 to 14 days to even get
Yes.
delivered, and
Mm-hmm.
then there's a lag time. So if you're really like you're really looking to be active every day and hustle for this,
Mm.
you might find yourself on a Thursday with not a damn thing to do, right? You've
Yes.
done all the things that you can do, and so you're not scrolling around Facebook for potential things that you could ping people about or whatever because you don't have any leads, right?
Right.
And so what's great about the active stuff, whether it's text messaging or cold calling, but focus on text, is
Right.
that if I want to send out a batch of 150 text messages right now, even to a list that I've already sent direct mail to, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
they should have received it in the last few days, and I'm just
Right.
following up with that list via text.
Right.
I'm going to get a pretty predictable number of responses. Right. So if I send out
Yes.
150 messages, I'm probably going to get 20, maybe 25 responses that come in. Some of those are gonna filter out because they're just telling me to kick rocks, which
Mm-hmm.
people do with direct mail as well, right?
It's normal. Yeah.
Yeah, it's normal. And then, some of those are going to equal conversations. But if you want daily opportunities to talk to sellers, even if some of those at bats are not yet ready to sell, but you're practicing your script and you're going through your talk tracks and you're gaining confidence and fluidness with the way that you talk to sellers, it direct mail, as great as those leads are when they do come in, it doesn't offer you daily opportunities to get better, and
Mm-hmm.
text does.
Yeah, because you're having a media conversation. Like, so the way our system works right now is we send out 20,000. We've been at 20,000. I think we started at 10. We're up to 20,000, but it's been more than enough for us to like what we need for now. And the great thing is it's easily scalable. We can easily scale to 50. Like if we just don't want to overwhelm ourselves, right? So yeah, so where our system works right now, we text the folks, we get our responses. Our lead manager, which is the same person who helps us with our texts, texting, she gets on the phone with them immediately, and she's booking appointments for our acquisition team, literally right there on the same day. right? So it's been great as far as the fluidness and the ability to have quick conversations and also quickly qualify these people. Because what we're doing right now is we go into a new market, we pull the list out. Of course, we scrub it and clean it. We load it into. We start off with text and launch control. We text them first. After we're done, everything that's not a lead, we now take that. We cold call them next. Everything that's not a lead from cold calling, we take that. If we get a deal, the key here is if we get a deal after texting and cold calling, that's the only time we send direct mail.
Hmm.
Then we send direct mail later. If we get a deal, if we don't get a deal there within texting and cold call, we don't even mail that area because we're testing a lot of areas. So we're not going to
Yeah.
waste that money. If they're not texting, giving us good responses with texting, cold calling, we feel like, yeah, we'll just take our chances and not mail because mail is costly, right?
So
But if we
you're
get deals,
using,
sorry, go ahead.
sorry to
Go
interrupt.
ahead. Go ahead.
So
Go ahead.
I love this strategy. So I just want to kind of highlight it, because it's something I think more people could take advantage of. Is in land investing, you're consistently looking at new counties and
Yes.
that meet whatever your buy box is. If you're looking for infill lots, infill lots. If you're looking for rural recreational land. But you're looking for those counties that match kind of your buy box.
Right.
And you don't necessarily know if a county is going to receive that message well or not, right?
Correct.
And sometimes you get counties that are complete duds that
Hmm.
on paper, on Zillow and Redfin and whatever, it looks like a killer county. And then
Right.
you drop the money on direct mail and you get nothing, right? And that's frustrating. So what you're doing is you're using the much exponentially cheaper marketing uh, pipeline, which is text first,
Yep.
to gauge interest, to try out new markets, gauge interest. And if you're seeing enough interest between text and cold call, you're able to get a deal or two, and that area shows genuine interest. Then you can move to a blind offer or general interest or whatever your strategy is via direct mail, because you've
Right.
got a use case in place. Like the market
Right.
shows interest.
Right. And the market shows interest, but also, Michael, you missed the most important thing. We have money to go back and reinvest.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. The
So we got
market
the money in
funded.
the account. Yeah. So the texting and cold calling, regardless of where the deal comes from, there's cash in the bank now. The return
Yeah.
on ad spend, we have the physical dollars wire in the bank account. Now we take some of that money and put that into does direct mail. So it's kind of paying for direct mail efforts. So the county has to show us that they want us to come there via direct mail. If not, we
The
just go
county
back.
has to fund itself.
Yeah, you have to fund itself. Yeah, you have to show us the money, right? Like they say in Jerry Maguire.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so,
No,
so
that's
so
a
that's what
that's
we're
a
doing. Yeah,
really really good strategy, and
right.
I know we'll highlight that one in the snippets from this episode, because it is something that launch control really gives you the ability to do. Within launch control, to do that when you are kind of hopping county to county, are you guys using a toll free number, or are you using a central kind of market that you're texting from? So like you're texting about land in California. Are you using a California market, or are you going more of just like a toll free nationwide kind of
Yeah, we keep it simple. I try not to overthink that. It's a good point, but I think sometimes people overthink that. We just have one market. Ours is North Carolina, but what we do is it has to be a major metro that people can
thing? Okay.
recognize, right? So it's not going to be a small town. And let me not mention. I don't want to disrespect any city, but anyway, we just so ours is we use the Metro Charlotte area. So it's I
Okay.
think we use a 704 number. It's pretty recognizable. It's not Charlotte's not the biggest metro, but I think if you use a big metro, Houston, LA, Florida, some big metro, people are used to getting texts from all over the world. I mean, country right now, so I don't think it's a big deal. So we do it, but and it's key because everything is mindset. I don't really care about that area code stuff because it's all about your pitch and your how strong your marketing text and conversation is. How good
Yeah.
is your team? And also, it's a law of numbers, right? Law of averages. You just got to text enough people. At the end of the day, people are going to respond, right? If people are in some kind of need,
Yeah.
they're going to respond to you, right? Regardless if it's a toll free number or 123 number area code. You know.
Yeah, and that's the thing that is really important to keep in mind, is like it doesn't matter what marketing channel you're using, nothing is going to get you a 40% response rate. And of those responses, nothing is going to have a 50-60% close rate. It's
That's
just
true.
it's just work. You're working on big numbers. I think
Right.
I think across marketing channels, whether it's PPC or text or direct mail, for every 100 conversations that you bring in, if you can close 2 to 3 of those, your business is going to be very, very, very strong, right?
Exactly.
Whereas, look, if the sales team at Launch Control, if the sales team got 100 calls coming in to sign up for Launch Control as a subscription, and they're like, "We signed up too," I'd be like, "You guys are in trouble. We need to have a conversation." Right? Like in most businesses, that conversion rate is garbage. But
Right.
in this business, it go for people going in and maybe getting frustrated that they're not closing enough of those conversations that they're having. The best of the best aren't
Mm.
closing 10%,
Yeah,
15%.
yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah,
just not the nature of the game.
yeah, yeah, yeah. 100% agree. Yeah.
So you went from having a real sweet spot in the wholesaling business to making some really smart steps in land. You worked with Callan Faulkner. You've got like the system that we just talked about, where you're using active marketing, text, and
Hmm.
cold calling to fund direct mail efforts in specific counties. So you have
Right.
proof of concept in every county that you go into. You're
Hmm.
clearly running a sophisticated shop. So,
Hmm.
is there anything you really want to highlight that's going well in your company currently that we haven't already talked about?
I think we highlighted. I think one thing we did do. I think you notice a consistent theme. Is I was part of Collective Genius for like about 4 years, which I thought was a great mastermind.
Hmm.
And like I said, um, part of that is they're big on operations and of course number of other things of how to run a mature business, have core values, have system, build a team, etc., etc. So our next step is once it started off with just me doing it, I slowly started to build a team, which I think is normally the next step was scaling. Um, and we started to build a team. Right now we have about 5 or 6 on our team, including our executive assistant. So now you have a team, but now, okay, how does that team have some kind of accountability? How are you able to run that team day to day operation wise? So we took the what's it called, the Rise framework, right?
Hmm.
Where we started working through the Rise framework, where we started having like daily metrics, daily calls. So that was a big part. So what we do is right now we have our, we call them, they call them level 10 with the other system out there, where we have, they call like the Rise Monday morning meetings. So what we're doing is each Monday we're coming together as a team before the quarter starts. If I back up a little bit, before the quarter starts, we have our quarter metrics, which breaks down to like weekly and daily metrics to make sure we're going to hit those quarter numbers. And we meet weekly every Monday just to make sure we're on track. And also daily, we have daily KPIs that we're tracking. So that kind of helps our team stay afloat and stay focused, and also built in accountability with the metrics, right? And everybody knows what they need to do, right? So that I think has been going pretty well with our company, because I went out of the country, thank God. I was able to, I had a family again, having their 50th birthday in Australia. I was able to go to Bali and Singapore for almost 2 to 3 weeks. My business just ran smoothly, still moving forward. Team
Yeah.
was running efficiently. Because, and it wasn't really me. Thank God I was able to put the systems in place. It was the system that we had that ran the business, right?
Yeah.
Anybody that has businesses know you need the system and the people to run it. So we have the system, and that's because we have those daily metrics. Everybody knew what they need to be doing. We had the SOPs, which is still a work in progress, but at least the ones we have were working, and the KPIs were in place. So everybody knew what they had to do. So operations wise, I think has been something that's been going pretty well with us as far as running our operations day to day.
Yeah. It's a topic that's come up quite a bit on the show on Deal Nation, and it's the importance of systems
Mm,
and what that means for you to go all the way back to the beginning of our conversation when you're thinking about leaving your 9 to 5.
right.
Is it gives those systems and having the right people in place to do those jobs, because a lot of what we're talking about does not require you, right? Like sending
Hmm.
out batches and launch control, you don't have to do that.
That's
Pulling
true.
once you have systems in place for market analysis and pulling the data from wherever you're pulling that data from, you don't need to be in the land portal or priced or land insights or whatever, pulling
Nope.
that yourself, right? Somebody can do that for you. If you've
Right.
got disposition partners or someone that handles disposition for you, and you know how to line up, you know where to find the drone guy, and you know what to put into the marketing, and you know where to post it and all of it, you don't need to do that. So what it
Right.
does, that system gives you, not only does it give you a pipeline to earn income consistently,
Hmm.
it
Hmm.
also gives you the ability, like you said, well, let's go to Bali. Let's go to where else should you go? Indonesia, like
No, Singapore, yeah,
Singapore, Bali's in Indonesia.
yeah,
You had the ability to go to those places, which just so everybody knows, it's 14 hours ahead, right?
yes,
So
yeah.
you're
So
not
you know about that. You know about it.
yeah, so you're not, you're sometimes literally a day ahead. You're in the future,
Yes,
and your
yes,
business is running itself in the past and making money.
yes,
I mean, that's
yes.
you're giving yourself that kind of freedom. Which, if look, I mean, if you're working a 9 to 5, even if you work
Mm,
remotely, like good luck traveling in Bali or Singapore or Thailand or any of those places because
correct.
unless you want to work from midnight until 7 o'clock in the morning, not going to happen, right?
100% true. Yep. 100%
Any
true.
challenges in the business? Anything that you're looking to improve on or wish you could improve on?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think like everybody else, I'll say in the real estate space as a whole, Michael. I think there's been a slowdown in dispositions. So we get deals. We're probably so we do a lot of double closes in our business right now. So for those that don't know, a double close is where you reach out to a seller, you have a contract to sign, but if you don't actually purchase it, we don't acquire the property. We just wait till we get a buyer, and we take both of those contracts. We call the one with the seller the A to B, the one with our buyer the B to C. We take both of that to a closing attorney or a title company, and we close both on the same day. So that's 90% of the way we do our business today, our land business, part of our land business. So a lot of times now disposition is kind of slowed down, and we have about maybe about 40 to 50% cancellation rate. So we're getting acquisitions right now. This quarter, our goal was 30 contracts. We're at like 21, so we're about 70%. Last 2 quarters, Q Q2 and Q1, we hit that goal. We hit all acquisition numbers as far as contracts. We get about 2 to 3 a week, so we're getting our contracts. But the issue is the cancellation, which is still so there's a leak somewhere in our system that I'm analyzing closely. But I think part of that is yeah we can improve our underwriting, but part of it is just there's been a slowdown with buyers. Buyers becoming more picky, and also when land typically is not a it's probably not a hot it's not as a hot an asset class as an improvement like a house or a commercial building. Let's just be
Yeah,
frank for those in the land space. That's just it's just the utility behind it. Unless you just have a property that's in the middle of somewhere hot in Hollywood that somebody wants to build on, of course. But most of our land is rural, infill, or et cetera, et cetera. So there's been a slowdown on dispo. So the thing there is now we begin to ask ourselves how can we solve that challenge. One thing that helped us when we started seeing a slowdown in dispo as of last year and this year, Michael, is um, initially we'll go through MLS, we use LandWatch, we added Facebook. We hired a company that does our Facebook posting, but now we added, which I wasn't doing. I learned this through Collective Genius, other land owners. We started putting signs. So whoever does our drone footage, they'll go to like Home Depot or Ace Hardware, get a sign, put our phone number, boom, right there. Guess what? That's help us dispo a lot of properties also. Whereas they were not online, but physically, a neighbor is like, "Oh, I didn't know this property is selling," or somebody who just drive by, same property that's been on MLS for months. Somebody who drive by and see the sign, physical sign with a number, and they will call it, and we'll sell it
yeah.
like that, right? So that has kind of been a helpful strategy. Overall, what we're doing right now, we're just becoming better in negotiations, trying to buy deeper, and also a great strategy that we use that works maybe 10, 20% of the time. I'll probably say closer to 10% is offering owner finance
Mm-hmm.
when you list properties. Because if somebody's not buying cash, they don't have 100K, maybe they might have 20,000 to put down. And now you can set up an owner finance note and just sell that note at closing. There's some people within the line space that will buy a note at closing, or you sit on that note for a month or two, and there are banks that will buy a note that has maturity over like that's been seasoned maybe 1 or 2 months, and you'll be able to sell it, maybe at least 90% of the price. So there's the other extra strategies out there. But to answer your question, dispo has been one of our biggest things.
Okay. I mean, yeah. I mean, I think we could do a whole nother session on just different exit strategies and when to use them.
Right.
When you say you have a 40-50% cancellation rate, just to clarify, are is that uh, buyer cancellation or seller cancellation?
Good question. It's rarely I'll probably say 5% is probably seller. It's mostly property issues. Let me put it like that. And when we have a new lead come in, initially right off the top, we qualify the property first. So we're checking for no wetlands. We're talking about land, no
Yeah.
wetlands, no railroads, all this stuff. So a lot of times it's a clean property, but the time, no landlocked. Sometimes we might buy landlocked. Some of our best deals have been landlocked, by the way. So anyway, so when we get the deal, sometimes the property might have a sloping issue, or there might be something with it doesn't perk. because like I mentioned, we don't buy off the top, we double close. So when we buy a property, for us to be a little more efficient with our dollars, we don't want to put any more money into that. The only money we're spending is for droners, put it on the MLS for flat fee listing service. So we're not going to spend any money on the property itself, like to do any kind of testing. We let the buyer do that. So a lot of times a property might need perk tests, and when the buyer does a perk test, it fails. Okay, we're done. Right? People, there are other strategies you can do, but we run a quantity business, we efficiency, volume. So we just move on. So that's why a
Yeah.
lot of times with the property is why we cancel. Sometimes we probably didn't underwrite it the best way we can. We probably should have done a better way of underwriting it, and we try to go back to the seller to renegotiate. They might not be as flexible there, but it's okay.
Hmm.
So a number of those things. Sometimes our contracts just cancel after 90 days. But we're not too concerned because I tell my team if a property's not under contract within 30, 60 days, it's either it's not a good deal or people don't really want that property. Let's just be honest.
Yeah.
That's what's going on. So that's why we're about 40, 50% cancellation.
Okay. Got it. Yeah. So again, like kind of going back to what we were talking about, this is it's a distinction. It's really important for people that are early stage to understand is that we're not necessarily looking for that house on the street that with a few improvements we can flip and make a bunch of money for it. So we're really like, even be willing to pay close to market value because we know that there's you put in a pool and there's an extra 80 grand in it or something, right? Like
Right.
we're not in that business. The business is really more of to acquire and quick sell
Yes.
properties, even if that quick sell is on owner financing terms. And so you're going to have you have to have the ability or the willingness, like not to look at that 40-50% cancellation rate as a negative, but
Hmm.
looking at that as a positive of this is us just knowing what works for our core
Yes.
business and not trying to stick a square peg in a round hole, and knowing
Right.
walk away if it doesn't fit our kind of assembly line cash flowing business model.
Right, it's a good point. And like I said, so we start to go back and analyze, you know, why these things cancel. And when we start to see that, that helps us, like you mentioned, to make improvements, what to do better next time, and to kind of stay away from maybe these kind of properties that keep canceling or this particular area. And when we've seen that, we just stay away from certain counties because we're like, okay, these counties keep having high cancellations for whatever reason. So we just kind of pull out of the county forever. And so we just stop our marketing efforts, stop texting, stop calling, and move out. So it kind of helps us. It's market feedback in a
Yeah.
way. And like I said, our cost is so low either way, so our investment is so low. And once we get deals that do sell, they make up for all the cancellations. We're probably like $400 in each deal, so it makes up for all the cancellations easily, right? But you got to test the market, so there's no way you're gonna have some kind of quote. You can't. It's kind of like failing forward. You're gonna make some mistakes, but it's okay because you're gonna be able to profit on the other side and really kind of make up for that, right? So that's why I see it.
Yeah. All right. So to wrap things up,
Yes,
real quick, we've seen quite a few changes in land investing over the last few years. Nothing dramatic, but more competition, longer sales cycles on the dispo side, that kind of thing.
very true.
Where do you see the land business going in the next, say, 18 to 24 months?
Yes, it's a good point. I think with land, like anything else, land just follows the housing cycle. I think if people are really paying attention, it normally trails it. So it really depends how the housing market is doing a lot of times, right? And
Mhm.
obviously what's going on with the Feds and the recession and things like that. I still think there's probably still going to be a slowdown because I literally on my TV here I have literally watched Bloomberg on silent, and I'm seeing more job cuts coming, right? The
Yeah.
companies are hiring slower and slower. Why is that important? Because if people don't have money to spend, or people are hurting their money in their bank account, they're not going to be spending on an asset they feel like they don't really need. Is my point.
Yeah.
So unless that begins to turn around with the economy as far as jobs, because at the end of the day, people got to have jobs to make money to spend. So I think if you say within the next 18 months, I think it's probably going to remain the same, or even probably get a little worse. And I think for people to kind of solve that problem, if you're in the land space of houses, you got to begin to kind of think outside the box. Which other ways can you improve yourself as an operator or find some kind of other revenue streams to become better at what you do as a business owner? Like what we're doing right now is we're still going across marketing channels. We're using the same marketing channels, but right now what we're doing is we're testing different parts of the country. Previously, we were heavily in the southeast part of the country, North Carolina, Florida, et cetera, et cetera. Now we're moving to different regions like the Northeast and the Midwest and the West, right? Just to kind of see what's out there, right? Because there might be a slowdown in one area for asset class, but another area, people are buying agricultural land. Who knows, right? One thing I learned in this space is you're not the market, so you don't want to begin to act like you know what the buyers are going to do. All you can do is present the best product, a great clean product at a very good price. Because it's like someone once said, I heard it from I think Logan Former. He mentioned that there's no such thing as a bad product. There's just bad pricing, right? Because
Yeah.
Michael, I can tell you right now, right? If I ask you today, I'm gonna ask you, hey Michael, do you want a Ferrari? You say, no, I don't really need a Ferrari. I don't really need it. It's $10. You will find $10 to buy the Ferrari, right?
Yeah.
Right? So it's just a price a lot of times, right? If it's a good product and the price is there, no matter how slow this economy is, good product, good pricing, somebody will pull the trigger. It might be 60% of true market value. Somebody's gonna buy it, right? So the
Well,
onus is on us to buy right and do a better job of putting a better product to the market. So that, like Jim Rome said, don't wish for less problems. Wish for more wisdom. So how can we be wiser as business owners, business operators, to be better? So regardless of what's going on with the market, it doesn't affect this. So that's my feedback.
no, I love that. It also kind of goes back a little bit to your 50% of a watermelon, 100% of a grape
Mm,
analogy. Is
good
that
point.
look like if you're out there and you're trying to get on the dispo side, you're trying to get max value for land because you think you can make an extra 5 grand, and it's just sitting. You're going to be better off taking 7 grand less, turning it around, letting somebody have their Ferrari for a little bit cheaper, and
Yes.
just closing more deals so you don't so that you can have profit coming into your business. Take that profit, put some of it towards marketing, get more deals in, scale, right?
Yeah, yeah, you raised a big good point. 'Cause, as a matter of fact, thank you for bringing it up, Michael. We had a deal that just closed last week, just like you said. We bought the deal for like 50,000. We put it on the market for 125,000. We figured we'd probably sell for like 115, 100K. Somebody came and offered us 90K. Of course, your price, like, how dare you? No
Yeah,
pride, logic only. So I thought about it, like, hey, look, I would really want 100K for this. We went back and tried to get the guy up from 90 to 100. He was like, no, all he has is 90. However, Michael, the property was only on the market for like I think 12 or 20 days. It was less than 30 days from when we purchased it. So I told
yeah,
myself, hey, if we make a quick 30K profit after all the fees in less than 30 days, as opposed to squeezing out for that last 10K, maybe it takes you 6 months, 20 months, and the economy keeps the tank, continue to tank. Who cares? This guy wants to give us cash, and he wanted to close like in 4 days.
yeah.
So he was ready to move. So I'm like, oh, the velocity of money.
There you go. Yeah, that's a great term. Yes.
Boom. And so I'm like, man, close. I told my team, move forward. Let's close the deal. Boom. And we just closed and we got paid. We got the money in our
Yeah.
bank. Less than 30 days. So that's what I'm saying. You might have to just kind of take less, but that gives you the velocity to keep building your business and keep reinvesting in your business to kind of, keep surviving through this time. Not only survive, but thrive. That's not I don't want to survive. I want to thrive in any economy.
30 grand's enough to throw a hell of a wedding. Even
There you go. Way to bring it back around. Yeah, there you go. My wedding, 30K.
yeah.
That helps. That helps. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
definitely. Definitely.
All right, Mel. Well, I really appreciate you coming on the show today. I think it was some really, really good insights, especially in terms of how your team is doing market evaluation and funding your self-funding your marketing efforts. I think that is amazing takeaways for that for the listeners. Um, no pressure, but if you want to give everybody a way to get a hold of you, get a hold of your team, learn a bit more, go ahead and let us know, and we'll drop anything in the show notes below.
Yeah, I think I'm not as active on social media. I think the best way to reach me is probably my email. My email is tim@landfastoffers.com. That's probably the best way. My social media, you probably just have to put my name is Google Tim Abie. You find my Instagram and Facebook. But I'm not as active on social media. But definitely email. I'm working all the time, so I'll get an email. So email is probably the best way to get a hold of me.
Okay, perfect. So yes, for everyone listening, we'll have all of Tim's information in the show notes below. You'll also see in the show notes below invitation to join our free Facebook group for launch control. It's called Investors Hub. You can drop questions there, connect with other investors, and of course, links to join launch control and start using text engagement for your business. All right. Well, thanks everyone. Really appreciate your time today, and yeah, we'll keep in touch, Tim.
Thank you. Thanks, Blank. Have a good one. Thanks for having me. Bye bye.